This is Barbara Barrigan-Perea with Delta Flows, a radio show by the Voice of Stockton and Restore the Delta. This is the weekly radio show where we discuss everything Delta related: the environment, water management, water quality, farming, history and culture, public events, recreation, Delta food, and the arts. Tune into Delta Flows on KXVS, the Voice of Stockton, streaming live on Facebook and YouTube at KXVS Radio.
KXVS, the Voice of Stockton, live. The Voice of Stockton at Stone Soup Studio. KXVS.org.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS, the Voice of Stockton, or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
KXVS, the Voice of Stockton, broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube, Simple Radio, and the TuneIn app. It's time for Connections, Peace and Justice Radio with your host, Bruce Giudici.
Well, good evening, and tonight we're going to be talking about Earth Day, which is coming up. It's only January right now, but still, we're planning for it, and this is going to be our 30th annual celebration of Earth Day Festival. With me tonight, we have Martin Saltzman, who has been working on this event for the past, I don't know, how many years?
I think this is my 13th year.
13th year, my gosh. Yeah, and so he's been working on the publicity and the media outreach, and I've been off and on working on Earth Day, and actually, I worked on it right at the beginning, and so the beginning for Stockton, which was 1989, and so this being 2018, this is our 30th celebration. And so it's going to be out in Victory Park on the actual Earth Day this year, which is April 22nd. It's going to be from 11 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. Governor Don, who is our engineer for today, thank you very much, and he is going to be our MC.
All right.
Yeah, and so
thanks for letting me know.
Oh, you bet. It's been a great time. Last year was a lot of fun.
We had a great time last year.
Yeah, and so we're just looking forward to this, doing it again this year. If you're interested in coming and helping to work on the committee, we meet every Monday evening from 6:30 to 7:30 in the Wendell Phillips Center at UOP, and so there's a conference room in there. And so just listen for for all the noise, and that's where we are. And so that's where we get together to organize it. So anyway, the
event actually starts at 11 with music and entertainment. The vendors should be ready by then, but prior to that, at 9 o'clock, you can do an hour of relaxing yoga to kind of ease into the day. But also at 10 o'clock, we'll be doing the March for Science. This is the second annual. First one last year went along with the national event that was held all over the country and all over the world. Mm-hmm. And this will be our second annual, and we'll be marching around Victory Park.
Yeah, and so the reason why it was last year was on Saturday, which was the actual the National Earth Day, April 22nd, and we try to celebrate our Earth Day festival as close to that day as possible, but normally it is the Sunday that's closest, and so this year it actually falls on the 22nd, and so this is really fortunate for us because it's going to be on the same day, and that means people who are getting ready for our Earth Day festival can do the March for Science, and a reason for the March for Science is that we have a very real concern that science is being ignored in the service of destroying the environment. Yes. And so our concern is that science is not being respected, and so we want to make certain that we respect science.
Issues like climate change and global warming are things that we need to be concerned about, and this takes us on at least a walk around the park journey to focus on those types of issues that are important to us locally and as well as nationally and then all over the world.
Right, indeed. This year, we're going to be, our focus is Every Day is Earth Day. That's our slogan. That's going to be on our poster.
Yeah.
And so because really having one day where we focus and say, well, this is Earth Day, and this is when we're going to care about the Earth, and then tomorrow we can just forget it. And that's not what we're about. We're about trying to get people to realize that everything that they do, every action that they take, has an environmental impact.
Yeah,
And make subtle changes in their day-to-day activities. Yes, picking up plastic at the park or turning in bottles and cans at the recycling center is important, but there's other ways that you can impact the environment and make it cleaner for people of ages coming ages, put it that way.
Yeah, and that's one reason for the event is there is a lot of information that's imparted to people all through the day. There's like up to 70 booths that we have, informational, nonprofit organizations, and governmental agencies that work with environmental issues, and schools. And so we have a lot of participation. If you are interested in working with us, please email us at stocktonearthday@gmail.com. And if you're right now, we've already sent out a bunch of applications for vendors to participate. And so if you're a new person to the area, or if you think you have some thing you would like to impart to folks about environmental stewardship, please contact us at Stockton Earth Day, all one word, stocktonearthday@gmail.com.
This is the premier environmental event in Stockton, San Joaquin County. And in previous events, we've drawn over the course of a day maybe close to 10,000 people. So it's pretty big, but it's also small enough so that you can work with teachers and vendors to find out about how you can make small changes in your routine to save the environment a little bit more.
And if you've not been out to the event, it's in Victory Park, so it's behind the Hagen Museum. There is we have entertainment throughout the day, which has local artists who are very good and very entertaining, and dancers. We have vegetarian food booths that provide an example on how you can eat lower on the food chain and still have a really nice meal. So we have activities all through the day. So
it's family friendly,
yeah.
And it's geared
free.
It's free. Yeah, that's family friendly, and also it gives young kids and students growing up an opportunity to learn things that they may not get in their own school. It's just another opportunity to find out what else is going on environmentally that they can do.
Yeah. So some of the booths we have out there, like Audubon Society and Sierra Club and stormwater people who say talk to you about how you're not supposed to throw stuff down the stormwater drain, and air pollution people who talk about how buying cars that are higher, that have better miles per gallon, are pollute less, and they show those vehicles. The bus people are out there showing us how the new vehicles that they have are much more energy efficient and pollution free. In fact, I think what we ought to do is we ought to see if we can get some bus folks on the show to discuss their new electric vehicles that are really low. Well, there's no emission actually. And so, except of course, there will be emissions in generating the electricity. Mm-hmm. So if there's a natural gas plant that's generating the electricity that charges up the bus, then there would be emissions. But hopefully, what we'll be moving towards is more solar and wind power that will generate that will charge up the batteries for these vehicles. So. Yeah, so it's a great day, again, April 22nd from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., and it's in Victory Park, and we've been doing this for 30 years now. This is the 30th year.
if you're a drummer or a wannabe drummer, there's a drum circle at the end of the event at 4 o'clock, where people just come together and we just create our own sound. Put together drums out of old cans or sticks, using branches. It doesn't matter what you use in order to create the energy and the music. It's just a matter of having fun with other people and creating a sound that is unique to the Earth Day Festival.
So this is Peace and Justice Network Connections. We're talking about the Earth Day Festival that's coming up on April 22nd. And I'm here with Martin Saltzman and Governor Don Majewski. Majewski, right?
Close enough.
Close enough. So anyway, Governor Don, you were last year was the first year that you emceed it,
yes.
right?
Yes, it was.
So what was your feeling on that? Because that means you had a lot of experience with the folks who were entertainment.
Yeah. As the MC, I also had the itinerary and itinerary.
Yeah.
Who's coming on and what other forms of entertainment, and even had vendor booth information. So just right off the bat, I could say that there was a lot going on. It was definitely plenty to see, plenty to learn from, and no matter where you were at the event, you could hear the entertainment. It was nice, centrally located. It wasn't. Unless you were right in front of the speakers, it wasn't blasting anybody out. There was that one guy.
One guy
who was sitting right in front of the speaker, and he was like, "It's too loud."
Well,
and
step
was like,
away from the speaker.
Thanks for letting us know. It's exactly right. Yeah. And even, people, they understand. It's a community event. And they get out there and they got their chairs out and they're parked in front of the stage enjoying the concert. There was, some of the best acts we have in town.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Did we tell you it was free?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and it's really for the price. You're not going to find a better entertainment value. The award-winning Washboard Monkeys were out there cranking it out. Yeah. Who else? The Yellow Dot Music, Conscious Dance Movement was out there. It was just a treasure trove of great artists, people from right here in our region. And it was act after act, back to back, just from one band to the next of great entertainment. And so, if only for that reason, just to be entertained, I'd say it's a great reason to come out. But one of the things that I really enjoy is what Martin said, that this is kind of the premier environmentally conscious event in our area. So this is a place for us to connect with each other too. Whether you were down with Earth Day, for the last 30 years, at this point it's undeniable. Everyone knows where we are. Whether you want to label it one thing or the other. Our planet is being detrimentally affected by human activities. Nature did not cause the garbage patch in every single ocean. Now there's one. There's now one in the Caribbean. There's two or three in the Atlantic. Several in the Pacific. They're now in every body of water, every major body of water. And so, human activity caused that. We know that the pollution in our environment. Human activity caused that. And, we do so much that's harmful to our environment that we don't even think about. Think about every day of your life. How many times do you throw away something that's plastic? We buy items in the store and boom, you just tear it open and you throw it away. Even things that we don't think that are plastic, like a paper cup. Well, it turns out it's probably coated with plastic. Mm-hmm. So these little microscopic layers of plastic and these big chunks of plastic, they end up in our environment and they last
don't go away.
Forever. And so these are things that without Earth Day and without environmentally conscious events and raising awareness for these things, then most of us wouldn't know about it at all. And we would just know when we're suffering, from ailments. So I think it's really a great way to connect and a really a great way to motivate each other. And I think Earth Day is every day is exactly right. Hopefully this year everyone picks up on that. And after the day after Earth Day, we don't put it down and we hold it up until the next Earth Day, because really every single day is a good day to be responsible stewards. There's any number of reasons, but if you're a spiritual person and you believe in karma, there's a great reason. If you're religious and you believe in the Bible,
stewardship.
The first thing that was ever commanded to humans in the Bible was to take care of the earth. So this is something that it should be taken seriously. And if you're just selfish-minded and greedy, well, hey, if this place is jacked up and messed up, well, then it won't be there for you to exploit. So there's just all sorts of...
Or for your children.
Yeah, your children won't get a chance to...
to mess it up.
Yes, right. So... and of course that's just being silly and cracking a joke. But the truth is, this is a serious issue. Most of us today have plastic in our body that comes from our drinking water, that came from refuse, stuff that we threw away. Most of us have, there's a great deal of us that's expected to get cancer. We have these digestive issues that have a lot to do with pesticides and different things in our food. So it's affected our everyday life. So, and
then not only that, but if we look at just habitats and we look at animals who are other than humans,
right? And
then in terms of the, even if we do like Don's saying, if we just look at it as like we're self-serving, the whole web of life that we all depend upon, from the phytoplankton in the ocean to the top, the top carnivore on the food chain.
Right.
It's an intricate web that has developed over millennia.
Right.
And for us to start taking parts out of it, like say the Delta smelt, and removing that and having that go extinct on our watch.
Right. The foundation species that other species depend on.
Yes, we don't know to what extent that is going to be the linchpin to a whole ecosystem falling apart.
Definitely.
And so when people say that they're conservative. And they're the people who are in power now in Washington are saying that they're conservative. To me, conservative means that you are careful, that you don't change things that are working. And right now, the folks who are talking about exploiting our fossil fuels and drilling wherever we can off of all the coasts that we have, and fracking and doing deep sea exploration, just so that we can keep profits flowing for a few companies. Those people aren't conservative at all. Those people aren't trying to conserve a thing. They're radically trying to exploit profits out of what is a unsustainable system.
Yeah, and the one point that I wanted to throw in there, people don't really understand, how this whole thing works. It's just we're just trying to do better in life, and we're trying to get to work and get to school, and so we put fuel in our car and all that. But the fossil fuel industry is heavily subsidized. There's a lot of money from the government. You could call it corporate welfare.
Yeah.
It goes into that industry, and the purpose of that isn't originally wasn't to funnel money into these rich people's pockets. It was because
these are multi-billion-dollar corporations.
Sure, but in the beginning, they required exploratory research and development, and so that was the government's way of helping to push forward, an energy plan. Yeah. Well, now the energy plan is a clean energy plan, and that's what we need to subsidize. That's what we need to put our work and effort into. And really, if you put fossil fuels on a level playing field, even right now today, with the advances in solar and wind and other forms of renewables, geothermal, wave motion, there's all these different innovations out. And it doesn't really add up. The fossil fuel industry is already in a losing position. And,
I was reading in a recent issue of Connections that said that that renewable energy sources are going to be competitive dollar for dollar by the year 2020.
Right, and
that's even without massive subsidies that the oil companies get.
And that makes sense. Right now, there's more people working in solar than the whole fossil fuel industry put together in our country.
That's right. And in terms of the number of people who work in the coal industry, the ones that the current administration is trying to preserve.
Right.
There are fewer people in the coal fields than who work at the Arby's restaurants nationwide. That's 50,000 people.
We have the coal.
Yeah, indeed.
The good news is we're in a progressive state, and we've got a governor who's proactive about doing some of the right things in terms of.
And we have a good city.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, I think our city has led by looking at a general plan that is talking about more compact growth. And and our city, the city of Stockton, has every year supported our Earth Day Festival in tangible ways. I mean, this event is really an inexpensive event to run. It costs like $10,000 to $12,000 a year to run, and for each event. And that some of that goes to the entertainers, some of it goes to insurance and the cost of putting on the event,
and some of it goes to scholarships for teachers in our public schools.
But nobody gets it's an all volunteer event, so none of the staff gets paid for this. So it's a labor of love by everybody who's in this committee. If you're interested in being in this committee, again, we meet every Monday evening from 6:30 to 7:30 at the Wendell Phillips Center at UOP campus, and we're going to be doing that every Monday evening from now until the event. And so, but the city has been so supportive and has been a wonderful partner in having this thing work that it's something to be proud of. Like Martin's saying about we're really fortunate to live in a state that gets it.
Yeah.
And, we understand the problem of global warming and climate change, and because we've lived through drought, we know the extremes of weather that climate change visits on us, and so we have the leading cap and trade program in the nation. We are the only state, or the leading state, that is working on a climate change process that is going to cut back on our carbon dioxide emissions, and people are uniformly against having oil drilling off our shore, and so anyway, so we're in fairly good shape here.
We certainly set the example, but there's always something more that you can do.
Yeah, I was listening to the promo that you had for Barbara's Restore the Delta. I mean, this is the year. Flows. Yeah, the tunnels. This is the year. And if you want to come out and talk with folks from the tunnels, they'll be out there. The folks who are resisting having the tunnels go through and destroying our delta. I think everybody, if there's one thing that that unites San Joaquin County, it's the tunnels. I think everybody and their dog is against the tunnels going through this county, and this is the year, because this is the year that this is the last year of Governor Brown's 8-year tenure, and for all the good that he has done. Frankly, this is the bad thing. This and some would say the high-speed rail, but this one here, this tunnel plan, is a loser. And
boondoggle.
And now they're talking about paring it down to a single tunnel. So
which would be worse, but one giant hole is worse than two small ones. But can I just interject something?
Of course.
It's interesting. We just spoke with Barbara Barragan-Priya from Restore the Delta, and that's what she mentioned.
Right.
And then last week we also spoke with some people who are familiar with not some people. It was actually County Supervisor Bob Elliott.
Oh yeah.
And in those two conversations, this is what I gathered, and I think it's really
now, Bob Elliott. He's a farmer.
He's a current supervisor, a county supervisor. Mm-hmm. I think it's District 5, south of South San Joaquin, like Tracy
Ripon?
area.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's the current chair. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing that he mentioned, which you're right, this is something that unifies all of us, regardless of your political affiliation or religion or whatever. We're pretty much united against the tunnels. But an interesting point that Supervisor Bob Elliott brought up was that, there's billions of dollars set aside and has been set aside since 2014 to for new water storage.
Well, there's a bond, right?
There's money to help store more water. And an important component of it is that regions are supposed to be building self-sufficiency, sustainability into their water systems. And this is literally the opposite of that. So there's billions not being spent on ways to store more water, and that could be either going ahead with some reservoir plans or making a few of them bigger, which could have their ups and downs,
or recharging groundwater.
Bam, that's the one that I'm talking about. Because the two ways that we recharge groundwater, one I'm not really in favor of, which is pumping water directly into the aquifer. Reason being is the reason why that water is so clean is because it filters through all this earth.
Right.
But another way is to slow down the water as it rains, through swales and different ways to not necessarily leave puddles, but to slow down water to where it collects in some pooling areas, and that seeps into our groundwater.
Well, you look at
it's very cheap to do.
Well, you look at the Yolo Causeway. I mean, the thing is that what they use is a diversion for to keep flooding, to keep Sacramento from flooding when Sacramento River rises too high. They have this Yolo Causeway, and they've opened up this large area that is like a wildlife refuge for birds.
Right.
And the water just goes through there. It sits. It recharges. It sinks in. And then it keeps on going. Yeah, wetlands, and it keeps on going, and it sort of spreads the water out. And you would think that's something that could happen down in the San Joaquin Valley.
Sure.
I mean, where instead of having a concern about having to raise your levees high enough so that your neighbor floods and not you, what you can do is you can create a San Joaquin bypass or causeway.
Definitely. I mean, and let's take even we have these rolling hills and these foothills, and if you look at back in the big picture, we're just in this great valley, and all along this area are contours that water flows along, and every year the sea level, the level of our land sinks because we're taking so much water out of this aquifer. But if all you do is just make what they call swales, it's very low tech, very low economic input. You're basically a backhoe, and you little bit of surveying gear. You could follow the contours. You just watch it, and you just cut these grooves in the land. And what it does is it slows that water down, and it starts to, winnow and meander through the hills and in the flatlands, and it slows the water down enough for it to sink in and recharge our aquifer. It's so cheap.
Yeah.
So cheap.
Yeah. It's just a matter of setting aside the land and having somebody who's not going to necessarily profit from it, because frankly the tunnels are just a method to extract some major wealth from, or major value from the northern part of California, and to extract it and move it south.
Right.
Because water is very valuable.
Right.
And so to the extent that it moves down, past the delta and goes to Los Baños or wherever the heck it starts and keeps on going south, whoever is at the end of that pipe can do whatever they want with that water. I mean, they can create a new Los Angeles outside of Bakersfield, or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of development that can happen with respect to that water, and a lot of the water that is used, the major portion of it goes to agriculture that frankly could be done in states that have more rain than we do.
Right.
I mean, where we're growing cotton and alfalfa and rice. There are other states that have much more plentiful water supplies, where those crops could be grown.
Exactly.
And so the thing is
especially a lot of the crops are grown for export, so it's not like it actually benefits the country. They just make some people rich.
Yeah, and when I was in college, or right after out of college, I did a survey on selenium buildup down by the Kesterson Wildlife Refuge, and a lot of the farmland that's down there is not suitable for intensive agriculture, because what you do is you're leaching out some salts that are really bad for the environment, and they collect in they collect in the aquifer, and what they had with this Kesterson situation, which a lot of people may not remember, but it was the end point of the San Luis drain that did not get completed because the San Francisco Bay Area people did not want that toxic salty water to come into the bay. And so it ended up building up in the Kesterson Wildlife Refuge, and it turned out that with all that selenium building up and all those salts, the birds were becoming deformed and weren't able to reproduce, and it was an environmental disaster. The soils down in the south part of San Joaquin Valley are not suitable for intensive farming. And so if we're going to ship water down there, it's going to intensify an environmental disaster that frankly we shouldn't even be thinking of. I mean, the water that goes through our delta keeps the salt water out.
Right.
And if we bypass it, you can just kiss our agriculture goodbye around here.
Right.
Getting back to the Earth Day
Getting
Festival.
back to Earth Day, of course. We could talk
Just
about water
briefly,
all day, but
we actually a couple years ago at the festival, we actually recreated one of the tunnels just so people could see just how big it was.
They're huge.
That the size of the cylinder that was going to be used, and just another educational aspect of or a plug for education at the festival. Letting people know things that they might not really think about, but once you got in the middle of that recreation, it was quite startling, actually.
Yeah, and in that same area of the festival last year, Annette DePauli, she put together a sort of a map of the delta, and what children were asked to do was to come up with to draw animals and to place them in areas where those animals lived. And it was really a wonderful display of an educational display of the diversity of animals that live in our delta that I'm afraid wouldn't if these tunnels went through. Mm-hmm. And so the thing is, these are the sorts of things that you can learn at Earth Day, that impact our daily lives. Mm-hmm. Because if we don't have a delta here, that will definitely change the it'll change the environment, but it'll also change the economy.
Everything. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And there's been communities across the world that have allowed situations like that to happen, where their whole areas are devastated because of diversion of water and things like that.
Look at Louisiana.
Exactly. Look at what and look what their delta looks like.
Yeah.
So I mean it's and they have that offshore drilling that didn't help very much with the Deepwater Horizon spill. But yeah, this is it's not like this information isn't available. We know what's causing harm, and we know what we can do to avert it. And profit is not that important. We can't let profit be our sole motivator. Being a sustainable company or a sustainable community, a lot of times you have to make a choice against profit for what's better for the community as a whole, and find an opportunity elsewhere. And that's what we have to do. I mean, think about this. The Stone Age didn't end because we ran out of stones.
Yeah, right. Well, the reason why so-called the profit wins in a lot of cases is because there are some things that don't have a cost applied to them. Right. And so in terms of clean water, in terms of salty water, or either they don't have a cost applied to them, or the costs are so broadly shared that it's difficult for you to say that one person or that other person has been affected by it. So in terms of cancer risk, or in terms of water, or any sort of health risk that people have. Right. When you see that something that is bad for the environment is being done because of so-called profit reasons, generally it's because some of the costs just haven't been quantified. So anyway, we're talking about Earth Day, April 22nd,
yes.
From 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Victory Park. It's a free event. We have wonderful entertainment. We have great vegetarian food. We have like 60 to 70 informational booths that you'll learn something from one of them. And
I believe that's the same weekend as the Asparagus Festival.
yes, it is.
And this year's festival, I think it's a 3-day run. It's obviously for us, it's like a David and Goliath type of thing. That it's just this mega festival that lots of people go to and spend lots of money and eat lots of junk food. And then you come to our event, and it's a little bit different focus.
But you can go to the Asparagus Festival on Saturday.
Exactly.
And you can come to ours on Sunday.
So
and you can compare the two and see which one was more fun.
Now, so far, every year I've been to Earth Day, and the Asparagus Festival ran out of asparagus before the Earth Day Festival did.
Oh.
So that's another great reason to come out on Sunday.
Come on over.
That one booth that
does
all that
That's right.
deep frying.
They
have asparagus that day too.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier that I have been doing this for 13 years, and not 1 year has it been rained out.
No.
So obviously, Mother Nature looks nicely over us and keeps us safe from the elements.
Yes, it's knock on
Yeah.
Formica.
Although I'm sure some listeners will remember the 5th annual Earth Day, which is in 1994.
Okay.
And back then,
Back when the Earth was flat.
Yeah, the Earth Day started.
Flat Earth Day.
We started our Flat Earth Day in 1989 out at Oak Park,
Right.
Where Billy Hebert Field is, where where California Street dead ends into Alpine, and so we were right there, and so our first Earth Day was a small event. I think we probably had 20 or 30 booths, and we had a little stage with some dyed sheets as the background. Mayor Joan Dara came, and she presented some award. And anyway, so we started there in Oak Park, and so every year we were there, and it was a very nice place because there's a bus stop there, and people could get there, and it was nice. But on the 5th year, which is this is a big year for us. It was just raining and pouring, and in fact we'd set up food booths with conduit, electrical conduit, and so and then we had like these big blue sheets that we would put over these things because back then as now. The county has environmental requirements that you have to have at least a plastic floor for your food booths, and you have to have sides to the booth so that you don't have like bugs and stuff getting in.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so anyway, so we said, and the food booths that we had really didn't have that sort of that sort of stuff. They didn't have any money. So what we did was okay, what we'll do is we'll put the food booths there as long as you come in and do the food. And so we wrapped these things up in these big blue tarps and had this thing. And it was just such a rainy thing. Our food booths just were lifted up off the ground, and they just blew away before the food booths had a chance to get in. And it was like, oh man, what a disaster! And then of course
Toto too.
Yeah, and then what we said is, well, okay, we're gonna have to cancel the event, and so we canceled the event on the 5th one. And at 12 o'clock, the sun came out. It was a beautiful day. Everybody goes, well, where's Earth Day? It's like, I think it just blew away like at 8 this morning. It was just.
So never again.
No, we haven't had a rainstorm like that since. No.
But Bruce, you're also involved in the one up in Calaveras County. Is that correct?
Yeah, and in Calaveras County we have a small event that it has a different focus. I mean, it still has an educational focus, but Calaveras County has a different, more sort of, I would say, a more artisan type of approach, and that's going to be again this year on the 22nd of April at Utica Park in Angels Camp, and that's going to also be from 11 to pretty much 5 or 6 o'clock. And that show, event closes with Clandaiken, which is a band that we had here for many years before Calaveras put on theirs. And so that's, I mean, if you're going to be up in the foothills, stop by the Angels Camp one. It's also free of charge to come in. It's a smaller venue. It has maybe about maybe 20 or 25 vendors, and it's not so much directly educational. It's more like organic farmers and things like that. So
even if you can't make it to ours, if you go to what's called the Earth Day Network, It's a national organization. You can find events all over the country.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they usually have one in Modesto, usually the same weekend as ours. Sacramento has a really good sized one. So it doesn't matter whether you're in Stockton, Modesto, Sacramento. There's places all over the country that are doing the same thing we are, trying to educate the public about environmental change.
Yeah, and again, if you're interested in helping to organize this, and it's a fun group of people to just get together and do something. You're not going to get paid, but it's you get paid in things other than money.
That's right.
It's just a lot of fun to put on an event that is successful. We meet every Monday evening from 6:30 to 7:30 at the Wendell Phillips Center on the UOP campus, and it's in the conference room there. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that I started working on this Earth Day back in the first one in 1989 and did that for about maybe 10 years, and then we moved at different places. We were at Oak Park, then we were at the Martin Luther King Square for 1 year, and then we went to the South Lawn at UOP, and then we went to then we were at the Weber Point. And at that point, or maybe it was Weber Point, and then it was Weber Point. And at that point, a woman named Susan Mora-Loico came in and said, I think I'd like to help work on this. And so she ended up taking over the chairmanship of the committee, and really built this event into the event that it is. Yeah. I mean, if we're Martin has put in his time and probably can attest to Susan's leadership on this, and she has just built it to the point where it is just it's solid. It is sustainable. It is.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the word.
Yeah. And so anyway, a shout out to Susan for that wonderful sacrifice, because she and her husband was really did a great job in getting it so that it's.
After her was Matt Beckwith.
Matt Beckwith, right.
And who's done a local podcast.
Yeah.
And
Podcast Stockton. He almost started this whole kind of thing back when we were watching his news on the internet.
Yeah, and he's the main driver in the bike coalition.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And has been he's been in the paper and has been a major person to influence whether or not we have bike paths in and around.
Love you, Matt.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. So the thing is that you meet some really great people in this organization, in this process, and so really
and be able to put your passion to work.
Yeah, because the thing is that a lot of times people feel like they can't do anything, that the environment is too big. Yeah. But really, it takes each of us one person at a time to make a difference, and when each one of us stand together, then there's a large group of people out here who really care about environments.
Exactly. And the point that you made earlier about our community being united against the tunnels, it kind of goes to show you that, this area, whether people claim to be an environmentalist or not, we all are sensitive to it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have that coalition against the tunnels. Now, many people have their own reasons for being against the tunnels, but very few of them are against the tunnels because they think that that'll make the environment worse, and so they don't want the tunnels because they want the environment to be worse. Right. So there's something that ties us together. And another thing I really like about this year's theme, Earth Day being every day, is along that same point you made. It isn't like this one huge effort that's going to save us. It's all of us being conscious about as much as we can and sharing knowledge with each other, better practices, better methods to be more sustainable, to recycle more, to reuse more. This is how we're going to make this happen. And so what we're going to do as a radio station, being a sponsor of the event, is each day we're gonna go ahead and put out a Earth Day message. Every day is Earth Day. Something that you could do practical today, to help make our Earth a better place. Just like we want to, let's make Stockton better together. Of course, we got to make our our planet better together. So
And
we're definitely committed to
and
that.
think about the animals and the insects and waterfowl and the fishes in the sea. All that needs to be protected as well.
Yeah.
One year we did we try to do some unusual things every year. One year we did a butterfly release. Seems kind of simple,
Yeah.
but
Pollinators.
people were just they just couldn't believe it that was happening. That we opened up this little cage and the butterfly would sit on a piece of something sweet, usually an orange, on their hand, and finally it would just fly into the distance. And
Wow.
it was special. It was just special moments for people, to be up front and close and personal with a butterfly.
Yeah. Beautiful,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, so I mean, and that's the interesting thing is that at each of these events, different booths come with different things to present, and you don't know really what you're going to find. I mean, we're going to get booth booth applications, and they'll say what's going to be coming. But rather than just read about what's going to be coming, come on out, and check out what your local fellow citizens are coming up with in terms of ideas as to how we can all make the Earth a better place to live in. So we're talking about Earth Day, April 22nd from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. out at Victory Park. It's a free event. Great entertainment, great food, wonderful educational stuff. And it's just there's this big meadow right in the middle of the event that you can bring your Frisbee, have a picnic. And it's just a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Come on out.
Yeah. And, we have...
Martin says it's not going to rain.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Guaranteed. Well, and that, if
Rain or shine, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, if we only have one Earth. There's only one planet that, people say, oh, we got to go to Mars, or maybe we got to check out Venus or something. But,
let's go ruin that one, too.
Well, those things are already, Venus is the extreme of what global warming looks like.
That's our...
And so, if we only have one planet, and it is just a miraculous piece of work. If you ever watch any of the documentaries, any of the Earth documentaries or nature or whatever, in terms of how animals have evolved in order to exist in this planet. And just go out in the middle after a rainstorm and just breathe in the air and just be reminded how remarkable a place that we live, and that it's precious, and it's something that we have to preserve, and something that we have to conserve, and if we're truly conservative, we should try to emit as few emissions as possible, so that we can get down. Right now, we're over 400 parts per million in terms of, I think it's parts per million, of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere, and a reasonable load or a maximum load is 350, and there's a 350.org organization that is
Right.
that is pointing out that's what we should be shooting for, is 350, and right now we're over it, and so it's sort of like we're overweight. And so what we need to do is we need to diet. And so it's not that it's going to keep, just because we are here and this is the trajectory that we've been on, it does not mean that we have to stay on this trajectory. And it means that what we have to do is we have to be innovative and to get our weight down, so we get down to 350. It took a long time, it took 100 years for us to get here, which isn't in geologic time is a snap.
Yeah.
But and it's not going to turn around in the span of a TV commercial. But if we're serious about this, and we're serious about preserving our Earth, we got to start.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that you can also volunteer for the event on the day of the event.
Right.
Okay.
So you don't have to just help organize it. You can actually help us with a table and chair setup, or maybe face painting for a kids group, a booth. There's a lot of different, a multitude of activities that you can participate.
And this year we have a March for Science. March for Science, we're going to need some volunteers for that.
Right.
Stockton
Our
Earth-
website
Yes.
isn't at that point of having all the detail. Actually, it has very little detail, but you can
Right
follow
now.
us at www.livegreensanjoaquin.org, and that'll at least give you the countdown days till the event, the date of the event, and the time as well.
And we'll be loading that thing up as we get closer to the event.
But the email address, stocktonearthday@gmail.com. If you want to volunteer, if you want to participate,
if you want to be a vendor,
if you want to perform, if you want to, help save the earth.
if you want to sell great vegetarian food, there are some hoops you have to jump through when you were. When we're doing our food booths, but it's a wonderful event to show off what vegetarian food you can produce.
Man, I make a mean baked tofu sandwich.
Yeah, and a lot of people ask why do we have vegetarian food, and the reason is that a meat eating diet is very detrimental to our environment.
Yeah.
There's the amount of water and also food that goes into a pound of beef or is much more than just eating the grain directly.
Right.
And so if we're serious about preserving our land and our water and our air, then we should be thinking of eating lower on the food chain. If you can't give up total meat, then maybe you can eat chicken. If you can't go totally vegetarian, maybe you can, like say on one day a week, like Earth Day, you can have a meat-free day.
Yeah,
Try it out at the event.
It makes a huge impact. Look,
it does.
Arnold Schwarzenegger was at the climate event in I think it was Paris, and he made a statement. He said that if Americans eat meat or don't eat meat just one day a month, it'll have a significant impact.
Right.
If it was one day a week, then you're talking about affecting so many things down the road. Freeing up food that could feed millions of people.
Right.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, and so that's one reason why we that's the reason why we have we've always had a vegetarian menu at Earth Day. Because just to try to teach people that yes, you can go without meat one day and it won't kill you, and actually it tastes pretty good, and actually it's probably healthier for you because a lot of our health problems come straight from the amount of cholesterol and the amount of saturated fats that we eat in our meat heavy diet. And
heart disease is the number one killer.
Asked our vendors, our food vendors, to provide recyclable things to wrap up
Utensils
different
and
utensils and cups
and no
sauce.
styrofoam.
There you go.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
never. That goes for you at home too.
Yeah,
I know it's only $1. There's a reason for that. Don't buy it.
Well, that's the thing is Earth Day being every day, we have to not just think about what we throw away, but just look at the packaging. Just look at all the stuff that that we have around our house, and that when you go out and buy things, think about where the stuff is going to go after you're done with it. Because you don't really throwing stuff away. It doesn't go away. We're in a closed system here.
You don't see it, but
yeah, we're in a closed system here. The Earth is doesn't go to Mars.
No, it doesn't.
It goes someplace else where somebody else lives. And so
garbage patch in the ocean.
Exactly. Yeah. Or some toxic waste dump, or think about the chemicals that you use. Think about just think about treading more lightly on the earth. And that's what Earth Day tries to do. It tries to teach people how not to be so have such a heavy effect. And Americans, United States citizens have a major consumptive effect on this world, because we do consume so much more than less developed countries, or even European countries. The amount of garbage that we produce is much more than anybody. And so we really need to be mindful. Where that's it's something that we're not really taught. We're sort of taught to buy as much stuff as we can and to eat as much stuff as quickly as we possibly can.
You're really a success when you can waste.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, right. In fact, I think that
is the thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
In that order: reduce, reuse, and then finally recycle. Reducing means not buying the packaging in the first place. Reuse means after you've bought it, then try to use it again.
Yeah.
You know, like use the bottle 3 or 4 times before you recycle it. And so reduce is first, reuse, and then recycle. Indeed. Okay, so I think we've pretty much used up our time.
Yes.
This has been wonderful. Again,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank Martin Saltzman and Governor Don Majewski. I'm Bruce Giudici. We're talking about Earth Day Festival, April 22nd, a Sunday. It's our 30th annual. It's from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Victory Park. It's a free event. Come bring your family. It's always a wonderful time, and we'd love to see you out there. Thanks.
Thank you.